Heath, to Talking Animals. Well, thanks so much for joining us today on Talking Animals.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here, and it's also wonderful to meet you too for the first time.
Well, likewise, and again, we're always thrilled to have in-studio guests. It's all too much a rarity, but especially to have you here, it's all the greater. So thanks again for making the time to join us in studio. So, as you might imagine, our chief concern today, of course, is discussing your plans and procedures for caring for the birds affected by the Gulf oil spill. But before we delve into that, I think it'd be useful to just hear a little bit about Seacoast Seabird Sanctuary. Maybe you could give us a brief overview, how you came to found it, some of the key developments along the way, and then including maybe some of Seacoast's efforts on previous oil spills.
Sure. Well, trying to make a long story short, I graduated with a pre-med degree in zoology right here at the University of South Florida here in Tampa. And I have to be perfectly honest, on the day I graduated, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And my father was a very prominent surgeon here in Tampa, and he always said, you do what you want to do to be able to make yourself happy. He says, don't worry about how much you're going to make. Try to do something to make yourself happy. So I said, well, that's pretty good philosophy, but I had no idea what that would be at the moment. So I went back over to what was just our house on the beach over there where the sanctuary is currently. That's where, of course, the sanctuary started. And I decided to be a well-educated beach bum.
Well, somebody has to do it, I guess. Yeah.
That is absolutely true. I said, I'm going to collect driftwood and make lamps. After about a 7-year college education, I'm going to collect driftwood and make lamps. And I was well on my way to the 3rd lamp base when I just happened to be going out to do some Christmas shopping and get a bite to eat on December 3rd, 1971, when I came across this little cormorant walking down the road dragging a badly broken wing. And of course I knew if he made a left turn and came out into Gulf Boulevard, it was going to be end of one bird. And so I picked him up, and my father, of course, had helped me take care of birds and animals and reptiles that were hurt over the years because he was such an incredible surgeon. But he was in Tampa, and this little bird was bleeding over there on Gulf Boulevard. So I called a veterinarian friend of mine that I knew took care of pet birds, Dr. Shen, who had his office down in West St. Petersburg there. And Dr. Shen was exactly like my father. He'd never say no. He said, yeah, bring him on down. I'm almost ready to close my daily practice, and we'll work on your bird. So I took him down there, and we only later on knew how brilliant a veterinarian Dr. Shen was, because he put the bird perfectly without ever touching a cormorant before, under anesthesia, put a stainless steel pin in his wing, gave him exactly the right amount of anesthesia, and put this pin in his wing. And then after the little bird came out of the anesthesia, Dr. Shen said, well, I've done my job, now it's up to you. And of course I had grown up on the beaches and knew what a cormorant ate, so I took him back home, put him in a box, put him in a back room so he'd stay warm and quiet for his getting over the operation.
Really? Yeah.
And I called the local fishing pier, the Reddington Long Pier, the next morning and asked him could I get some bait fish for the bird, and because he was perky and happy and looked like he was going to make it. And so the bait shop operator said, no problem, come on down, I'll supply you with all the fish you need for your bird. And the next day he called up and said, well, I got you some more fish for your bird, but I got you bird number 2. I just found an injured seagull underneath the pier.
Wow.
And so that was bird number 2. And then bird number 3 was when some friends picked up a pelican tangled in fish line down at John's Pass, which, as you know, is no stranger to the brown pelican. And word of mouth spread like that, and the sanctuary started.
And then you became the guy to take these birds to, or to call when somebody found a bird?
Oh, well, only thing you had to do was as soon as the fire department and the police department learned about it, I mean, birds started coming in like daily. Just a couple of days ago, the police brought out a heron they picked up on the road. Unfortunately, the poor thing didn't make it. It had an extremely badly broken wing and 2 badly broken legs, so
wow.
he didn't make it.
Tough
but
to survive
the police were usually the first people that were called, when people found an injured bird, especially a big injured bird, and so they started bringing them out virtually on a daily basis.
Well, boy, I want to hear more about sort of you know, changes and maybe evolutionary points of Seacoast history over those nearly 40 years. But and maybe later on we'll talk about that and maybe visitors and touring the facility. But again, I suspect I'm not alone in being eager to have you address the Gulf oil disaster and Seacoast process for dealing with. So let's say you're presented, you know, because actually I think I just read an AP report that oil sheen at least was confirmed about 9 miles off the Florida coast, and you know, I expected to hit Pensacola maybe today sometime. So you know, we're talking about a fairly imminent reality here. So let's say you're presented with you know, a handful or more pelicans who are coated in oil. What's the very first thing that happens?
Well, the first thing, of course, you have to do is time is of the essence. And one of the saddest things that we heard about yesterday afternoon, we haven't confirmed it yet, but a commercial fisherman called us from his boat, so I guess through radio telephone. He was halfway between Louisiana and Florida out in the Gulf, and the report that he gave us was several hundred pelicans floating around out there covered with oil. And of course we have no facilities to get out there and get them, because we of course reported it to the Coast Guard and the authorities to see if they could check it out. I mean, I don't know what you could do other than fly a C-130 out there and look down and see a bunch of dying pelicans. Was about all you could do right now, because time is of the essence. In a bird, a lot of our people, of course, remember seeing the old World War II movies with guys in the water after ships were torpedoed. Well, it's actually what you swallow that really makes you sick and can really hurt you more than what's on the outside.
Sure.
And so time is of the essence. Once a bird gets in the oil, then the first thing the poor bird tries to do instinctively is to preen the oil off his feathers.
Right.
And if he's coated to head to toe, that's going to be a useless effort. But the problem is the poor bird is swallowing this stuff.
Right.
So what you need to do, of course, as soon as you possibly can, either when a bird's found in the water or on the beach, is to pick it up, get it wrapped in a, you know, some sort of a towel or cloth to try to keep the bird from preening the feathers. Because the more he takes in and ingests, the sicker the bird's going to get, and the more chance of death is going to occur. And then, of course, what you have to do is to take them to the closest cleaning station, where you, of course, Dawn dishwashing detergent. Everybody knows that that's the best stuff that you use to clean the bird. And it's really an effort to have enough hot water, and then, you know, certainly the personnel that knows how to correctly clean the bird, clean its eyes, clean its bill, and then, of course, be able to flush the bird's system. Believe it or not, Pepto-Bismol is what you use to flush the bird's digestive system, unless he's, of course, too far gone for that to even work. And then you have to, of course, dry the bird and then put him under recuperation. And what I'm personally worried about is I have to tell you, I had a gut feeling that this spill was going to be worse than they let on when it first occurred.
Sure.
I just had a feeling that this is going to be a major mess for the Gulf of Mexico. And now what do? You know, we're preparing right now to be able to take an influx of birds and actually hold them, because it would really be tragic to spend all this time cleaning a poor bird and putting him through all that suffering and stress, and then the poor bird gets out there and gets oiled again.
Right, of course. Well, let me just let folks know, this is Talking Animals. If you just tuned in, we're speaking with Ralph Heath, the founder-director of Seacoast Seabird Sanctuary. We're talking about the Gulf oil spill, obviously, and the birds afflicted by it. We invite you to join the conversation by calling 813-239-9663 or emailing dj@wmnf.org. Well, just what you said there, Ralph, has spurred a number of questions, starting with a couple of the sort of particular things that are used in the process. Because, yeah, I have been struck recently, and prior to that as well, that Dawn is the detergent of choice. Why Dawn as opposed to, you know, any number of others, you know, detergents out there?
Well, one thing, it breaks up the oil structure very nicely, you know, emulsifies it and gets it off the bird. And then, of course, it's a type of product that's easily to wash off the bird. It doesn't leave like a gummy residue like some other types of soap products would. So it cleans the bird very nicely once you wash it off. And of course, you have to use ample supplies of warm water to get this off the bird. And then, of course, a major logistics problem is what are you going to do with all this oily, soapy water that you know, got to be collected somewhere once a bird is clean. So cleaning birds is kind of a logistics nightmare.
Well, it sure sounds like it, and I guess the other, while we're sort of talking about product placement of sorts, why Pepto-Bismol? What is that?
That helps to coat the stomach to help protect it against the oil